In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a map. You'll notice on screen we're in the unknowns and we've received an invoice in called Office Supply Company. Now let's assume we've done the standard process of going find map. We would see if there's an Office Supply Company. You can see there's not. So if you wanted Invitbox team to create a map for you, you would just click Map for Me and we would create this map for you free of charge. However, if you do want to create your own maps, this is what you would do. You click Create Map. Okay, now what you'll see we've done on screen is we've taken the invoice and you'll notice we've broken the data down into little blocks or little nodes of data. So what we now need to do is teach our system that for Office Supply Company, we need to teach it the coordinates and the rules of how to strip out the relevant information. So you'll notice the first options we have at the top here is document type. So we can either choose invoice line item or invoice service, credit note line item or credit note service. Credit notes will be dealt with in a separate tutorial. Before this one, in this particular scenario, we can see that Office Supply Company is a line item invoice. That means it's got quantities, codes and unit pricing. Now if this invoice just had a description and a total price, it would therefore be a service invoice and these fields to be mapped would change slightly. So for this one we're going to keep it at line item. So the first thing we need to map is an item on the line item header. So that's asking us, tell me where the line item header begins. So in this scenario it's quantity. Oh, sorry. Now just so you know what I'm doing, when we hover over a node here and we triple click, you'll notice it highlights the entire node automatically. Now, it's now asking me for an item on the first row of line items, so again a triple click, and this is the first item on this line item. This third option is a label indicating start of footer. So if I scroll down to where the footer begins, you'll notice we've got subtotal. So we're teaching the system where the main block of data actually finishes. So what we've now done in those first three mandatory options there is we've told the system where the line items begin and where they finish. So now, irrespective of how large or long or many items there are on this invoice, the system will always be able to pick up where to begin to strip line items and where to finish. Okay. So the next set of options we need to map then relate to the invoice header. So you'll notice this header subsection. The first option being invoice number, so it's asking us for the label of the invoice number. So you'll notice in this scenario, invoice number, the label and the actual invoice number are in one node. So what we can do is actually highlight just part of this particular block of text. So the label is invoice number and the actual value is 536524. The next option is the invoice date. Again, we will do the same thing. It's invoice date, and the invoice date is January 28, 2014. Then it's asking us for a supplier name. Again, a triple click up there. We'll select the supplier name. Office Company. Company ABN, the label. So we've got the label there. Now we've got the number there. The due date or day's credit. Now it's important to note that you can map an actual date or you can map terms. So if there was a due on a specific date, you could map that. In this scenario we've got terms, so we can map terms as a label and net 30 as a value, and the system will actually work that out. Next thing we've got purchase order number. So we've got your order number 1892727. We've got an order date. Now you'll notice that these next options are not mandatory, so if there is no order date or shipping date or currency annotation, you can just ignore those. So just for now I'll ignore those. Then we come to the line item section. This deals always with the middle section, so between the line item header and the line item footer. So invoice number, we've got that code, invoice description of the item, and the invoice quantity is 120 in this case. It's then asking us for the item unit price excluding, the line amount excluding, or the item unit price including, or the line amount including. So again, you don't need to fill in all of these options. The more you can fill in, the better. We usually recommend if there's any discount on the line, so you can see in this scenario there's a unit price and then a discount, we would advise you to map an amount or a value after the discount column has been applied. So in this particular scenario, I'm going to map the goods total here, which appears to be, let's see, that's a goods total excluding tax. So I'm going to map 1080 as the line amount excluding tax. Now you'll then notice if I drop down to line tax amount, if it gives you the actual tax on the line, which this does, $108, I'll map that. And then also here we've got field to indicate tax is applicable. So this little Y is a field that indicates there's tax on that particular line. So by mapping that, that will mean if there's any lines that do not have this Y present, we will detect those as not taxable, a non-taxed line. In the last option, you'll see we come to the footer section. So this is the final section to be completed, and this always relates to information below the field you've marked as start of footer. So again, not all of these totals are mandatory, so if you really wanted, you could just mark the actual total of the invoice. So for example, in this one, I'll mark pay this as the label and 2453 as the amount including. But you can fill all of these in, and again, the more you can fill in, the better in terms of for accuracy of the map. So the goods total attracting tax is the subtotal. Then we've also, in this particular invoice, you can see we've got a delivery including tax, so we'll do freight amount including tax, $11. The tax total, you can see we've got a tax total here as well, and we'll map that as well. So for this invoice, that's all we need now. I'm just going to click on more footer fields. These are again optional columns. If there is bank details to be filled in and they're on the invoice, you can always map the bank details as well. Particular invoice, I'm not going to map the bank details because you'll notice there is no ABN or BSB. Now once you're happy that you've filled in all of these right hand boxes that you need, you can click finish. And what you'll notice this does is presents all of the data in the pre-filled boxes. Now what you need to do is just make sure that the data that's been filled in is correct. So example, are these quantities correct? The lines correct? The unit pricing, is it correct? Tax rate, taxable rows, just double check everything. Make sure the subtotals and the taxes are all correct. You can see here that everything does in fact match. You've got 2230 as the line items, then you've got $10 of freight, which we add as a line, as opposed to in the footer. We take that out, and you'll notice that all the totals do actually add up. $223 of tax equaling 2453 as the total amount payable on this invoice. From there, you simply select the supplier, which is already detailed in a previous tutorial. Click OK, and that's that map in use. That will now be added to the entire Invitbox database for any other Invitbox customer to use.